Welcome to this week's episode of Talking Therapy. Talking Therapy is the companion podcast to my YouTube series In Therapy. We follow brave participants on their real-life therapeutic journeys with me. It's part of my mission to break the stigma around mental health, chronic illness, the reality that we all struggle at times. We all go through difficult chapters in our lives, and the more guidance, support, wisdom, community we have through those times, the more elegantly and the more easily we can navigate our way through them. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the power and the importance of state, the state that our body, our mind, our nervous system are in. I'm going to explore why people can struggle with meditation. So if you're someone that knows the benefits of meditation but really struggles to maintain a consistent practice, this is going to be a helpful one for you. I also answered some of your questions, actually from Instagram this week. Question around drawing the balance between being optimistic and becoming toxically positive. And a question around where the people pleaser pattern comes from. How much of that is sort of genetic or inbuilt versus shaped and conditioned through the experiences of our lives. So I want to start a little bit talking about the power and the impact of the state we're in. And this is partly inspired by the fact that we've just today opened registration for the next Reset program. The Reset program is my flagship online coaching program that really teaches you the tools, the strategies to reset your nervous system. And it's a 3-month in-depth program, really where the Reset program meets videos like this and the In Therapy series. Is these videos are little snippets of ideas. And in therapy, you're following other people going on their therapeutic journeys. In the Reset program, the spotlight is on you. Obviously not in a public way, but I'm really guiding and supporting you to use the tools and the strategies. I specifically teach tools and strategies in a supported way, which is not something I can do in short videos like this. It's also, you'll see the participants in therapy, sort of behind the scenes of their sessions with me, they're also working through those modules. If you want to find out more about the Reset program, you can go to reset.alexhoward.com. But one of the ideas that's in the Reset program is this idea about the power and the impact of the state we're in. So what are states? States are really the place that our mind, our emotions, and our body are conditioned and trained to respond from and react from. It's really the places from which we meet our life and we meet the world. We've all had the experience of being, for example, in a state of anxiety, and we can feel our nervous system is ramped up. Perhaps our heart is beating faster than it needs to. We then start to disproportionately respond to the things that happen to us. We read danger, we read fear in places that it's not actually there, because the state that we're in determines how we feel and how we respond to the world around us. We've also all had the experience of being in a really sort of calm and relaxed and accepting place. And then some things don't go our way. And we would have expected that we would have had a response of being, angry or panicked or frustrated. And we sort of surprise ourselves and our capacity to just be with it, to just let it go. The more helpful and the more sort of suitable, appropriate states that we're in, the easier our life becomes. Everything from anxiety to depression to low self-esteem to anger to frustration, these are all states. States are like waves in the ocean. They can come and they can go. The challenge is, if we don't recognize how our states are being created, we become the victim of our own states. Our states are also self-perpetuating. Memory is state dependent. So if we are in a state, for example, of anxiety, we remember all the things in our life that we feel worried about. If we're in a state of anger, we can focus on and we see all the things in our life that, guess what, that we feel angry about. So the more we get conditioned, the more we get trained into being in a certain state, after a while, states become traits. It goes from being a wave in the ocean to becoming the ocean that we live in. We get normalized and we get conditioned to being a certain way. It's almost like we start off at a kind of lowish level of, let's say, anxiety, and then we gradually, the levels ramp up and we normalize that state of being anxious and being wired becomes our homeostatic balance. We get normalized to being in that state. Then we get ramped up some more and we keep getting conditioned and normalized to being in a wired state. When it comes to changing states, obviously this is a big piece. It's a 12 module, sort of 30-hour program in the Reset program. But one of the first things is, and I talk about this a lot in this podcast, is awareness. If you can see it, you don't have to be it. If you can start to, and this is where module 3 of the Reset program, we do a whole piece of what we call self-awareness bootcamp, that you really start to look at what are the triggers, what are the different thought patterns, what are the different habits, what are the different ways that the kind of the ingredients that make up the conditioning of training yourself to be in certain states, and identifying what are the different states that you go into at different times in different ways at different points through your day and through your week. So just starting as we talk now, and as you're listening to this, watching this podcast, be curious as you reflect for a moment. What are the main states that you find yourself living in? Is it states of anxiety? Is it states of depression? Is it states of joy? Of course, there's positive states as well. Is it states of peace and relaxation? But what are the natural homes of your body and your nervous system? Where are you used to meeting the world from? And then recognizing what are the ingredients that make up that state. So if you think about it like this, if we were going to make a chocolate cake, we would need some flour, some eggs, some sugar, some chocolate. I haven't made chocolate cake in many years, but we would need, my kids would know the answer to this very well, but we need the different ingredients to make a chocolate cake. But what if we changed chocolate for coal? You put everything together in the right way. All the other ingredients were right. You just change one ingredient. Do you still get a chocolate cake? Most definitely not. I've never had a cold cake. You get a cold cake. Same is true when it comes to, for example, a state of anxiety. You can't have a sustained state of anxiety and be breathing in a deep, embodied, calm, and relaxed way. One of the key ingredients of anxiety is we don't get enough breath into the body, and that becomes, again, one of these self-perpetuating, self-generating states that we go into. You can't have a state of anxiety and sort of be focused much more on the present moment, because what fuels anxiety is looking into the future and seeing things going wrong or being scary or being bad. It's anticipating things that are going to happen. If you have anxiety in your body in the moment and you gradually relax and surrender into that, you stop pouring sort of petrol on the fire, there'll be a gradual calming and quietening and settling that happens. So just as a few clues, if you can see it, you don't have to be it, recognizing, identifying the different states you go into. And then what are some of the ingredients? What are the thought patterns? What's the focus of your mind? What are the breathing patterns? How are you using your body? Just starting to become aware of those in of itself can be a first step to starting to get some freedom from those states. As I mentioned, there's a free 3-part video series for the Reset program. You go to reset.alexhoward.com. We've opened registration for today. It's open for about 4 days. For the next intake, it then closes again. We do an intake about 3 to 4 times a year. If you really are resonating with what I'm saying here, just watching that free 3-part video series will be a great way to understand and learn more about particularly the Reset model for changing the states that we experience. So linked to this, And another one of the kind of areas that we dive into in a fair bit of detail as part of the Reset program is mindfulness and meditation. Training our mind to be present to the moment. Learning to be more grounded, more connected in our body. It's one of the most powerful ways of influencing and changing the states that we experience. But a lot of people can really struggle with meditation. One of the things they know could help them, but it can be really difficult to do. And just a bit of a checklist here of some of the reasons why I think that can be the case. Firstly, people have all kinds of expectations of what they think should happen when they meditate. They should go to a state of bliss. They should not have any thoughts. They should be completely relaxed. And that doesn't happen. And therefore, they're doing it wrong. They can't do it. They're failing, or whatever may be the case. My experience of meditation for the vast majority of people is it's a practice and it takes time. And the sort of more significant changes that we're hoping to happen take weeks, if not months, to just begin to see some of those pieces shifting and changing. So going in with a much more measured and much more realistic expectation, I think can also help us feel that we're winning at meditation, which then allows us to be more consistent in terms of following through. The second is we can be trying to do too many things. We have what I call too much technique. We're trying to sit a certain way at a certain time of day with a certain breathing practice, listening to a certain piece of music whilst doing a certain mantra, and it all just feels so overwhelming that we just almost get stressed in the practice of trying to calm our system. I really believe in stripping meditation back to the core foundational principles. Become more aware of your body, let go where you can of your fixation on thought, and use your body and your breath as your focus. We've got a growing library of meditations on my YouTube channel. They're completely free obviously on YouTube to watch and to listen to. So if you're looking for some simple, basic, sort of stripped back to fundamentals practices, I think you'll find those useful. We can also find that it's difficult to meditate because there's too much tension in our body. And as we come into our body, we sort of feel all that tension, which then makes us want to get away from our body. Sometimes moving our body first can really help. Depending upon physical energy levels, that might be going and doing some sort of exercise. It might be some sort of moving meditation like yoga. It might be having a hot bath or a hot shower. And it's just something that just supports and allows our body to relax and to calm and settle. Sometimes also, the reason we struggle to meditate is there's trauma. I mean trauma, maybe trauma with a big T, but I also mean trauma with a small t. Just some of those subtle, small, but significant life events that have shaped how we feel. When we start to meditate, we start to feel those emotions coming up. So sometimes using tools like EMDR, emotional freedom technique, just learning to open to and allow your feelings to be there will make it much easier and much more comfortable to then really be present and come into your body. If you've struggled to meditate historically, that does not mean there's something wrong with you or that you can't ultimately learn to meditate. What I think it probably most likely means, you've had too much expectation, you're trying to use too much technique, you need to calm and settle your body a bit first, or there's emotions that are coming up that actually you need to work with rather than try to avoid when you're doing your meditation practice. Hope that's some helpful clues. Obviously, this is once again a big topic, much more that we can say. But I just wanted to speak to that because I think there's a lot of people that have given up with meditation when there's so much potential for it to help them. They just need to have, as I say, a more realistic expectation and a bit more guidance and support. So I'm now going to come to a couple of your questions. Just a reminder that your questions are so helpful for me, not just in terms of the raw ingredients for this podcast, but also getting an idea of how my posts on Instagram, the videos on YouTube, what goes in the newsletters, how that's landing and how that's resonating for people. There's a couple of really good questions I actually picked from some of the recent Instagram posts that I've been doing. If you're not following me on Instagram, why not? Please do. We're doing some Instagram specific content, some really short 15-second little reminder introductory videos that I think seem to be doing really well. So please do. It's Alex Howard Therapy on Instagram. The first question was from Jane. Where is the line drawn between being optimistic or being toxically positive or positively toxic? So Jane, I think the key piece here is, how does it make you feel? If what you're doing is taking an optimistic attitude towards things, it'll make you feel good, as long as it's an appropriately, if we're overly optimistic, we're often forcing something, and what goes up in a way which is unsupported often crashes back down again. But if we're being appropriately, just taking a sort of positive, optimistic mindset, we will feel good, like it will feel supportive. It will be a positive experience. If we're doing it in a way which is toxically positive, it's sort of negating, it's rejecting, it's shutting down how we feel, it doesn't feel good. We feel diminished, we feel judged, we feel squashed, we feel attacked. So your barometer for whether it's just being optimistic or there's a sort of toxic element is, how does it make you feel? Or if you're speaking at somebody else, to somebody else, how does it make them feel? That's really what we're looking for. And our second question is from Helen. Helen's responding to a comment around people pleasing that I did on Instagram. But she says, as part of her question, is it your understanding that these traits are genetically transmitted, or are they developed throughout lived experience? So my sense is it's both. As a father of 3 daughters, my kids, and if you've got kids, I'm sure it's true for you as well, they just came in differently. They came in with different desires, interests, responding to different things. We come in with a soul or an essence, whatever you want to call it, whatever language works for you, which is different. Maybe that's just driven by our genetics. Maybe it's driven by something more spiritual in nature. But then we also get conditioned, we get shaped by the experiences. And it might be that we didn't come in with a people-pleasing kind of trait, but then we kept getting positive reinforcement when we did things for others. So we learned people-pleasing. Maybe we came in with the trait and we didn't get much reward for it. It wouldn't be developed as much. If we came in with a trait and we were rewarded, it's going to become a strong conditioned quality in our lives. It's a sort of raging debate in psychology over many years. How much are we shaped by nature, the way that we come in, and how much by nurture, the experiences that we have in our lives? Both are important. But understanding the ways that we've been conditioned can be so helpful in changing that. And our genetics are not a life sentence. The whole science of epigenetics is we can change what genes we turn on and we turn off. They can absolutely be shaped and be influenced. So I hope that's been helpful. Look out for another guided meditation coming out this Sunday. At the moment, every other Sunday, we're doing a new guided meditation. We're really trying to grow that library on my YouTube channel. We also did a video last Sunday on why I love being a therapist. It's one of my favorite videos we've done recently. It just captures for me the love that I have for this work. So check that out. And we're about to come back in the next few weeks, hopefully next week, certainly the next few weeks, to In Therapy. This is the second part of season 2. So do look out for that. As always, be kind to yourself, go gently.